everyone. Welcome to the panel called Magic, Misfits, and Monsters, How Fantasy Can Help Kids Brave the Real World. I'm your moderator, Kerstin Rao, and we're going to be going in alphabetical order by first name. So I'm going to ask each author to introduce yourselves, tell us roughly where you live right now, and tell us about your titles. Thank you. Phoebe.
Okay, so my name is Alston. I'm in Lexington, South Carolina. My book is Mario and the Night Brothers. It's about a girl who has to go to a special summer camp for supernatural creatures in order to find out what happened to her brother.
My name is Dan Haring. I live in Utah. I'm from there, but I've lived other places as well, but I'm back in Utah. My book is The Star Shepherd. I co-wrote it and I illustrated it. The co-writer is Marcy Kit Connolly. And it's about a boy who lives in a world where stars are hooked in the sky, and when they fall, they have to get rescued and sent back up into the sky. And suddenly a lot of stars go missing, and they have to figure that out.
That is so cool. Thank you, Dan. All right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, Heather.
I'm Heather, and I'm in Arizona, where it's going to hit like 111 today, so I'm roasting. And my book is The Forest of Stars, and it's coming out August 4th, and it's about a girl named Louisa who can float, and she goes on a journey to find her father at a dark carnival.
Whoa, I want to read all of them. H-I-J, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Abbott, author of Eva Evergreen, Semi-Magical Witch. I'm in Southern California. It's really sunny and hot today. And Eva Evergreen is a story about a 12-year-old girl, Eva, and her sidekick, Ember, who Eva goes on a journey on a witch's quest, and she has to pass it or she'll lose her magic forever.
Okay, I love how all your characters already have problems. So great. The next person is Rena.
Hi, my name is Rina Baron. I'm the author of Maya in the Rising Dark. So Maya in the Rising Dark is a story about a girl who finds out that her father is the guardian between our world and the dark. And to save our world, when he goes missing, she has to unlock her powers and fight a bunch of spooky creatures.
That is so epic. Rena, I'm also going to ask you, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Chicago.
That is epic. All right. So now the first question. First question for you guys is, I'm so glad you guys are here to get to know each other. I'm curious to hear whether during childhood you ever felt like you had magic. Did you ever feel like you were a misfit? Or did you even feel a little bit like a monster? We're going to go in alphabetical order again. So go ahead, Dee.
Okay, so this might sound cheesy, but first time I felt like I had magic was actually when I found out about writing stories. So in elementary school, I would write them for myself without any intention of anybody else ever reading them. But when I got to middle school, I started writing these really cheesy horror stories with my classmates. Usually it was like a field trip to some spooky place where everything kind of went wrong and not everyone made it to the end. And so when I finally got the courage to let a classmate read it, he loved it. And then soon everybody's gathered around the computer to find out what happened to them in the story. And I think that's the first time I realized that something I could write would create happiness in somebody else. And I felt like magic, just know that I could have that kind of effect on somebody else. So that's probably my answer.
That is epic. And the next person will be Colette. So hopefully we'll be able to hear.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, so Colette, did you ever feel like you had magic? Or did you ever feel like a
Oh, yes, I didn't do the beginning. Should I tell you where I'm calling from? I didn't get to do the beginning one.
Thank you, I appreciate that, yes.
Yes, oh, okay, it's a lag. Yeah, I'm on the east end of Long Island, it's a nice day out, not like 111 like Heather there. Hi, Heather. Anyway, this is my book. Let me see. Yeah, Kiki McAdoo and the Graveyard. There we go. Graveyard Ballerinas. Should I tell a little bit my book? I'm just lagging here. So I can't hear you, but okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, Colette,
Yes?
we can hear you. And tell us
Okay.
about your book.
Okay. Yeah. It's about a young ballerina. She's 11 years old. She loves dance, but she's not good at it naturally. She has bow legs. She's short, and her older sister, who's a teenager, excels in it. But they both go together to a Gothic camp in the summer for 3 weeks, and it's surrounded by magical mountains, and all kinds of mysterious things happen there. And the center of the story is the ballet called Giselle, which is about ghost sylphs, young dancers that were jilted on their wedding day, and so they live in their graves, and then every night at midnight they rise and they dance till dawn, and Kiki has to save her sister before she gets ensnared by them. So that's the gist of that. Should I do the magical part?
Yes,
the magical misfit part
or monster. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, okay. I guess when I was young, hopefully I wasn't a monster like, but I think I was more like a magical, where I kind of lived in my own world, painting and dance, and I just kind of floated around. And I did have a crystal ball. I used to try and look at it, but I think I just imagined the things. I didn't really see anything, but I did have one magical experience, and I did put it in the book, that when I was young and there was a bouquet of flowers on the kitchen table, and one of the flowers, of the yellow flowers, an actual face came out and stared at me, and it was so real, I didn't imagine it, and then it went back in, and that never happened again in life, but so I did put it in the book. So that's that.
That's so creepy and beautiful at the same time. Okay, next on the alphabet is Dan.
All right. So there were definitely times where I felt like a misfit. And if you ask my mom, as far as the monster thing, I'm sure she'll say there were times I was a monster. But I grew up in a tiny town. We had like 600 people. We had 5 TV channels and no internet or video games and things like that. So I had to use my imagination a lot. And so I don't know if I ever felt like I had magic, but I felt like there was magic like just everywhere in the world. And even now when I see, like huge cloud formations, I'm like, what's really in there? Like it's so cool to think about like the mysteries and the magic of the world. So I feel like there's still just like, there's magic out there if we look for the right places. And I still feel like that now, even though I'm way old now.
That is a charming answer. I can just picture you in your small town imagining what's going on with the clouds. That is epic. Next in the alphabet, I believe, is Heather.
Yes. And I think I kind of feel like Dan does about magic. Like when I was younger, I would always play with my stepbrothers on the weekends, and we would just kind of try to find the most, trouble we could get into, or we'd make our own trouble. And like we would have, I remember this orange striped couch we had. It was hideous, and it was pull-out couch, and we could just pull out all of the cushions and we'd make a spaceship out of that. Or we would go to the park and we'd climb a tree and we'd kind of, pretend that was our woodland forest and castle and things like that. So I think it kind of just started there, just the way that my stepbrothers and I would kind of just take on different roles. And then kind of with what Bibi said, just when you actually sat down to try to write about those things too, we could even make it even more exciting. So I definitely think that, we can kind of pluck magic out of the world.
Man, I'm loving these answers. Thank you so much. Julie is next.
So for me, I would say, I don't know if I've ever felt like I had magic, but I felt like a little bit of a misfit because I would move schools when I was younger, or I didn't feel like I fit in with others if I was, when I had just moved. But the one time that I felt there was magic was when I could read a book and sort of escape into a different world and have these people, familiar friends that I've always known, and that would move with me and stay with me no matter where I go.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I moved a lot too as a kid, and you're absolutely right. Books are friends who stay with you. Epic. What a great answer for a lit panel. Okay, next person is Rena.
I would say a little bit of magic and a little bit of a misfit. I grew up on the countryside on a farm, so we had a lot of space. And so I did a lot of exploring. Probably shouldn't have at my age, but like going out in the woods and imagining that there were monsters and all kinds of scary things. So I always, like Phoebe and Heather as well, I always saw magic around me. And kind of imagining things. But I was also a little bit of a misfit as well. I remember this particular instance, because I was a very shy kid. So I remember this particular instance where like family had come from out of town and I pretended they were monsters. So I went and hid from them under my bed. And everyone was calling my name, "Where's Rena? Where's Rena?" And I was like, I'm hiding from the monsters. So I was a little bit of both.
Oh my gosh, this is great. I like all of you guys so much already. I hope our readers are feeling the same way. This is amazing. Okay, so as a reader, when I feel a connection with a protagonist in a book, it really gets me into the story. So if you could each pick one of the protagonists that you've created and tell us what makes them vulnerable and relatable. Alphabetical order, BB.
Okay, so the protagonist in my story is Mari Peters. She's a 13-year-old Black girl from the projects. She has a scholarship to a very upper class private school on the affluent side of town. And then when she gets the invitation to summer camp for her at the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs, you know, when she goes there, she's among like the richest kids in the whole nation. And so she spends a lot of the story very much a fish out of water. And I think that's something probably everybody can relate to, you know, being in a situation where you really don't fit in, how isolating and kind of lonely that can feel. I think it's easy in those situations to kind of, you know, resent the things that make you feel different. So maybe if I didn't look like this, people would like me more. If I didn't think or feel like this, I would fit in better. And I think for Amari, learning to kind of overcome that and kind of not only be proud of where she's from, but see it as a strength is an important part of the journey in her story.
Oh my God, great answer. Colette, protagonist and what makes them vulnerable and relatable? And just like me, you got to remember to unmute.
Do I have to do it? Am I unmuted?
We can hear you.
Hear me?
Yeah, so tell us about a protagonist and what makes them vulnerable.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, so yeah, she's 11-year-old, and as I was saying before, she loves ballet, but it doesn't come naturally to her. She has to work really hard for it. Her bow legs, she has thick glasses like the author, and she can't see too well, although when she takes off her glasses, she can see between the two worlds, the earthly world and the spirit world. So that's kind of neat. And then also her mother died a number of years ago. So she's dealing with this big hurt that's inside of her heart as she, you know, goes off on her journey with her sister.
Oh my gosh, I already feel bad for her. I'm cheering for her with her lost mom. Thank you, Colette. Next person is Dan.
So Cairo, this is a picture of him, is a 12-year-old boy. He's the main character of the story, and his dad is the village's local star shepherd. And that right there kind of makes him a misfit, because the star shepherding thing is kind of like the Jedi, where it's like, oh, that's an old hokey religion kind of thing. Like, a lot of people don't believe it anymore. And so Cairo's 12, and he's kind of caught between this place of like all these beliefs that he's had growing up, and now he's getting all this outside stuff like, oh, that's false, that's fake. And I think middle grade age is like kind of the age where you start encountering outside opinions and beliefs, and a lot of them can challenge what you've grown up with. And I think that's something that people can relate to, and you kind of have to navigate those waters and see where you end up of, hey, I've known this thing my whole life, and now someone's saying that it's maybe not true. So I think that's something that I've had to go through in various times of my life, and hopefully people can relate to that as well.
Spot on. That was really cool. All right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, Heather.
I'm going to talk about Louisa, who's right there. She is 12 years old, and like I mentioned before, she can float, which is pretty unusual. And so her mom has kind of always tried to hide that from others because it's a little bit different. She doesn't know how other people would react to that. And so when she actually has to go and search for her father and she goes to the carnival, she meets a lot of other children and adults too who just have these unique abilities in different ways. Sometimes, small, sometimes, not, like shifting shadows and able to control shadows. And so she can see like, oh, wow, there's other people like me. And she feels that she can actually find a place where she belongs and find people that she can trust, because it's not always easy to trust people with your secrets or just who you are deep down inside. And I think that's what makes her vulnerable, is she doesn't know who to trust at first. And so she kind of gets to meet people, open up to them, and realize that it's okay to be who she is. So.
Oh my God, I'm like in love with all of these protagonists. I care about them already. This is wonderful. Rena, you're up. No, I blew my alphabet. So much for me being a teacher. My God, Julie, you're next.
So I'm going to talk about Eva. She's 12 years old. She's actually just got just a pinch of magic. That's why it's called a semi-magical witch. And I think what makes her so relatable is she isn't all one thing or another. She's not the chosen one. She's not the strongest. She's not the smartest or the most powerful. And she's always looked up to her mother, who's actually one of the most powerful witches in the realm. But Eva barely has a drop of magic herself. And being in that state of somewhat being there, but not strong enough to overpower everyone like her mother, or cast storms like her rival, makes her someone that I rooted for as I wrote the story, and I hope readers will too.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That is super relatable as you're growing up, because your parents seem like they can do everything. That's really cool. Thank you. And I'm so sorry, Rena, I keep blowing the alphabet, so you're up.
Okay, I'll talk about Maya, if you guys can see her. There she is. Maya from Maya and the Rising Dark. She's 12-year-old from the south side of Chicago. So what makes her kind of just the average kind of kid is she's okay. She's in math tutoring for 3 years. She's not the most popular kid ever. Like, she's a nerd. She loves comic books. And she gets picked on a lot. She also discovers that, that her father has this magic. He's protecting our world from the dark, but she doesn't really have magic when the story starts. So she's learning to kind of rely on just like her abilities to kind of be just savvy in order to go back and save her father, who's like basically imprisoned in the dark right now. So I think she's really relatable because she's just, she's just a normal kid who's trying to do what's right. And there is a lot very similar to what Dan mentioned, a lot of really starting to see that your opinions don't always align with your parents or what, the folks that you're starting to form your own opinions. And Maya does that throughout the story, where she starts to see the world in a different way. And I think that age group of being 12, you're in this little pocket in a sense for a very long time, and you start to see the bigger world, and you start to explore ideals and opinions and see things outside of it. And I think Maya going outside of kind of her little South Side neighborhood and learning about not just all of Chicago or not all of the US or the world, but to learn that there's another world and to explore that. I think that is very relatable in the sense of like just her growing up and learning, more about herself and developing opinions of her own as well.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so epic. You created wonderful characters. Yes?
That's what I was trying to say, but Rena said it like way better. So
I feel like you guys, some of you know each other before this panel, so that's like adds this family feeling. It's so nice. So my next question to ask is, when you were growing up, what book helped you cope with hard times and why? And given that, like,
Okay, so
you'll think of this book, are there echoes of that book in your own work? So you guys know the order better than I do, so I'm gonna let you just go.
okay. So for me, it was probably Charlotte's Web, and that's mostly because I was like a military brat, so I was always like moving around, and that means always making new friends, and that was kind of hard for me because I was like super shy. And so just kind of like reading about Wilbur and Charlotte's like great friendship that always brought me comfort in those those rough times, because it kind of reminded me why making friends is kind of worth the effort. And I felt when I wrote Amari and the Knight Brothers, I think it was important for me to add a really strong friendship in that story too. And that's actually her camp roommate Elsie, and she calls her out when she's wrong, and she supports her too. And then they forgive each other when they mess up. And I think it's really important to see what a healthy friendship looks like. So.
Very cool. Thank you. In fact, that's like one of my all-time favorites. Colette, you're next.
Oh, okay. Well, Louisa May Alcott grandparents are my times great-grandparents. So growing up, of course, we had the book Little Women in the house, and it always fascinated me that a woman could write a book, especially back then in the 1800s. So I think I kind of always kept it in the back of my mind that maybe someday I would be a writer, but I kind of pushed it out of the way, and then I went into my main career, which was dance, and didn't get back into writing seriously until after I retired. But the relationship between the sisters, and I don't know whether or not, but in my book features two sisters, and how they fight, but they still love each other underneath it all. And I loved how as the character Jo in Little Women went after her desire. She was kind of an early feminist of writing, and wasn't didn't want to be pushed into a marriage that she didn't feel was right for her. So so I think I really love that book.
Thank you, Colette. Dan.
So we had every 2 weeks a bookmobile would come through our town, and I remember one day I checked out this book called Redwall, and I had no idea what it was, but it sounded cool. So Redwall is kind of this medieval fantasy thing where all the characters are mice and woodland creatures. And it just kind of blew my mind. It kind of opened my eyes to the fantasy genre, and it made me realize like there are worlds out there that are way different than ours, and you can use your imagination and get to them. And it was really kind of an escape for me, kind of like BB said, where his books were his friends. Like I could just dive into a book and just kind of escape from the troubles of the world. And in Redwall, the main character is he's kind of thrust into the role of trying to save the day. He's young. He makes mistakes. He gets things wrong. That's kind of what Cairo goes through too. So that was kind of an echo of that, of this person who really has no right to be trying to save the day is in that role.
Fantastic. Oh, I remember bookmobiles. I hope they're still moving around out there. They're the best. Okay, Heather.
Yes. I don't know if there was any one book in particular that really stood out in terms of, helping me when I had a hard time, because I just kind of wanted to go into any and all stories. I just couldn't get my hands on enough of them. But two of my favorite books are these right here. Here we go. Just fairy tales. These were books my grandmother always read to me. And so I think that they were so different. There were so many, and they were short, and I could just get lost in them. And they had, things that were scary, and they had friendship, like BB mentioned, which is ultimately like so important, I think, to show in stories, and to have, you know, kids see how they can find their own. And also I liked the darkness in the stories, and so there's always going to be a little thread of magic and darkness that's going to be sprinkled in somewhere too.
That is amazing. I've been rereading Wanda Gagg's translation and illustrated Tales from Grimm. So I was like, connection. Okay, great. Julie.
So actually, I was thinking of Redwall the other day, like Dan. I was like, oh, I want to reread that series. It's such a good series. My pick would probably be Matilda by Roald Dahl, because it's a girl who doesn't have a lot of support, but she does have the people that she needs to overcome her challenges. And I think that's something that Eva, for my story, would relate to a lot, because she doesn't feel like she gets thrust into this quest where she has to get her magic, but and then she's in a whole new town away from her mother, her father, who supported her. And so she has to sort of grow up on her own, and Matilda had to do that, definitely, in her story as well.
You guys are making such great choices. I got to reread like all of these things. HIJK, I'm going to PQR. Rena.
Yes. So I agree with a lot that's been said already. It's really hard for me to pick one particular book or series. I think for the most part, like what Heather had mentioned, like I love to kind of get lost in stories, particularly fantasy stories, because it just helped me expand my ideal of the world and think of all these possibilities that maybe I didn't see necessarily in my own life. And it just gave me big ideals. And made me think I could do a lot of things and be a lot of things. And I think that's always the most exciting part about reading fantasy. One series that I really did enjoy for its friendship was the Animorphs series. And I don't know if many people remember that one, but they were a bunch of friends, and they went through so many adventures and so many kind of like scary things were happening, but that friendship was there throughout. It was the thread that kind of held them all together. And I think that that's something that is very just threaded through my own book, friendship. But then, like Heather mentioned as well, I do like darker books. So there's always like a little darkness. I mean, Maya in the Rising Dark. So, I mean, I think that says a lot. So there's a little darkness as well, because I think as a kid and also as an adult, I love the whole like spooky, just a little scary and a little spooky. That's always kind of fun.
Oh my gosh. It's so interesting to hear friendship come out as a theme, and darkness. Sometimes that's how you wind up bonding with people, as you go through something really challenging together. And that's when you can learn to trust each other and make each other laugh and stretch each other, let each other know what's possible. So I feel like this is mini friendship right here. This is so good. All right, so I have a final lightning round question. This lightning round question is, what is one deep, dark, magical secret you can share with aspiring writers?
Okay, so I don't know how magical it is, but I would say persistence, because you get told no a lot. So just kind of believe in yourself. Just keep believing, keep doing the work, and getting better. And that's what I would suggest.
Colette, I feel like you've unmuted and you're ready to go.
Oh, I'm ready to go? Okay. I guess two things. A huge pot of coffee is really, really important. And the other thing is like the perfect soundtrack. And I don't know. I don't even know how many songs, hundreds and hundreds of songs that I buy off every day. And my 99 cents a dollar, 29 songs, and it's ridiculous. But then I put them, I file them into certain categories. I have like Celtic music, spooky music, angry music, sweet music, and then I have to get myself all set up and get my right soundtrack for the mood of what I'm writing for, and I wear these huge things to block out the world, and it gets me in the mood. So that's my 2 magical secrets.
That is so cool. And just a mom tip, if you're a middle schooler, no pot of coffee for you. All right, Dan.
My advice would be no one else in the world can tell your story. Like, no one's lived exactly your life, your experiences, and all those experiences will inform your writing. So write your stories because the world needs those stories.
That was awesome.
Heather has. I guess for me too, I like the atmosphere in a story. And so having that atmosphere around me when I'm writing is really helpful too. So just feeling like cozy, and I always will see, I don't know if you saw my cat going by, but I always have to have like a cat on my lap. So, you know, just getting to find a routine that works for you if you can. Sometimes it's not easy to actually have a routine without life going on. But if you can, something that works for you. You know, I always have a big glass of water, my cat on my lap, a blanket nearby, which maybe sounds a little strange in Arizona, but I need it. So whatever works for you.
That is so great. I love the cozy factor. Julie.
All right, so my secret, I would say, is you don't have to write a book in a day. Write a little bit at a time and do what you can to make the book happen. And it's okay if you feel like the story isn't the right story. Just write what makes you happy.
That's very cool. That's very NaNoWriMo of you. I love that. Rena.
I think my magical secret to writing is don't be afraid of failure. Just in general for writing, it takes time and energy, it takes practice, it takes patience. And it also takes the ability to understand that you might have to keep trying and trying and trying again. And failure happens at every stage in the process. Just, you know, on the page and kind of where you're going. You don't know sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work. But if you keep at it, you keep going, you'll get to some place that you want to. And I think just not being afraid of it, because sometimes when we're afraid to fail, we seize up and we won't do something. So I'm not going to write that book because it's not going to be good. I'm going to fail. Don't let it go. Let it go and write the story. As Dan said, you're the only one with those experiences that can tell the story in a unique way. So just write it. Don't be afraid of failing.
Oh my gosh, you guys, this has been such an amazing panel. I want it to keep going. I want to have the big pot of coffee. I want the cat on my lap. I want to hear more about your childhoods. I wish this could go on and on. What's really special though is that here we are from all different geographic places, from all different walks of life, and we're all here to connect with readers. So readers, I hope that you have enjoyed this, and I hope you are thinking about being a writer also. I did mention NaNoWriMo. Do look it up, NaNoWriMo YWP. I usually have a crew of kids doing that every year. So keep making magic, keep being misfits, and definitely defeat the monsters. Thank you guys all for being here today. This was wonderful. Bye.